All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome into the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to be going over the NFC grades in the draft. I'm going to be going all 16 teams. Here with my guy Dan right here. How we doing, Dan?
I'm excited. We're going to be talking about some of the best drafting teams from this draft today in the NFC, with starting off with the Cardinals and the Eagles, and some teams got some really good value. So we're going to be talking about them today. I'm really excited. Let's get started with
Yes, sir.
the
Yes,
Cardinals.
sir. We got a little late night stream going on.
Yeah,
Dan slept through his alarm clock, so we're grinding out here doing the late night streams.
yeah.
I love it.
Late night NFL Seekers podcast, the latest we've done for sure. So
I'm an owl. This is the time I thrive. So hopefully we get to do some more late night ones too.
yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, I did want to talk about there was some news in the NFL. DeAndre Swift getting traded to the Eagles, which is just absurd. And this is the NFC episode, so I guess we will talk about that. I can't believe it. Obviously, A plus for the Eagles. I can't believe it. We'll talk about it more for the Lions later. I personally obviously would have rather had Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift and not had to trade DeAndre Swift. But I mean, hopefully Jahmyr Gibbs is good for the Lions. He probably will be, but
Did you see that tweet where it was like other executives around the league were frustrated over the amount of praise that the Eagles' Howie Roseman was garnering during this year's draft? It's like it's
yeah.
like you did a good job. I didn't get that tweet, but I mean it was like noticeable players the Eagles came away with Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo trading for DeAndre Swift. It's just ridiculous. I mean that's just what a great GM does. Props to Howie Roseman. It seems like he does this stuff every year. Just absolute steals.
And getting Swift in with that Eagles team and that run game is just unfair for sure.
Also, there's some other news. A lot of teams are declining their fifth players' fifth-year options. Isaiah Simmons got declined today. Kenneth Murray. There's quite a few. So interesting.
Yeah, I'm still interested to see if the Cardinals trade DeAndre Hopkins and the other safety, Buda Baker, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that team's kind of a disaster, but I think they got a bright future going ahead. They'll have two first-round picks next year. They got a young star left tackle they just drafted, so it's going to be interesting to see how they start rebuilding.
Yeah, and with that, that's a good segue into the Arizona Cardinals 2023 NFL draft class, where they had a pretty incredible haul. They traded down originally, and then they traded back up with the Texans. But in their trade down with the Texans, they gained their first round and third round pick next year. So I've been seeing some NFL mock drafts that have the Cardinals having the first and second overall pick next year, and they've been getting Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison. So the Cardinals obviously played this draft great. If they wanted Paris Johnson at 3 originally, and they still went down technically and got him, I love it. They had their courtesy trade with the Eagles, which was interesting. But BJ Ojolari, I love the fit. I absolutely love this. I think they can pair him with a really good edge rusher next year and have a really good future duo. Garrett Williams, I love that. He was one of your guys. He's a really good fit in that secondary, and he'll start day one. And Michael Wilson's a really good fit with Kyler. So I like the overall class, and I'll give it an A. I think they did a really incredible job.
Yeah, I mean, they were screaming from the rooftops that they wanted to get out of the number 3 spot because they knew they could trade down and still get their dude. And they needed to get an offensive tackle. It really was their number one need to protect Kyler, and start building that front five. So I mean, Paris Johnson, A+. But yeah, the overall class is actually pretty phenomenal. I thought they did a really good job. BJ Ojolari was one of my favorite players too going into this draft. He's super young. I think he's still like 20 years old. He's got the whole pass rushing repertoire in his books, and so he's an exciting player. I think he's got nothing but improvement to go. Garrett Williams, yeah, one of my favorite corners. If healthy, easily could have been a first round pick. They got him in the third. Tremendous value. Michael Wilson, a guy that stood out at the Senior Bowl that impressed everyone. I kind of picture Michael Wilson to be like a Michael Pittman for the Colts, and that's great value in the third. And then John Gaines, That's also another good pick. Maybe a little bit early. Kind of thought he was more a fifth, sixth round pick, but nonetheless, that's a guy that has potential to be a starting guard. So I do like the draft class a lot. I'll give him an A, and especially for picking up a first round pick next year and still getting their guy. So that was a fantastic draft class.
Yeah, and Keitrell Clark out of Louisville, he's one of the better slot corners in this class. So I think they got two potential starting corners in the future. So I really like this Cardinals haul. Got a lot of
Oh, too, my dude. that's
yeah,
a,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good late round dart throw. That guy, he's super athletic, super fast. Yeah, 4.39 40. He's got some of the most best physical tools in the draft. So I mean, in the fifth round, that's great value too.
Yeah, it's a great value and it's a great fit too. So I love that. But yeah, overall, great draft by the Cardinals.
Yeah,
Let's move on to the Atlanta
A's
Falcons.
from both of us. A's from both of us on them. Good job.
Great draft for the Cardinals. Atlanta Falcons. I'm gonna give this one a B only because they could have got Will Levis, man. They could have got Will Levis a few times. They were a few picks away from him in the second round. I would have traded up. It would have been worth it. I think you have a really, really good team with Bijan now. But nonetheless, I give him a B because I still like their draft overall. Matthew Bergeron is a great pick. Any team would love to have him as a guard. I think he was a pretty highly touted prospect this year, and Zach Harrison's a really good player. Going to be reliable, rotational piece for them. And Clark Phillips, man, he could start for them day one and be one of their better secondary pieces. He's really good, so I love that pick. Absolute steal in the fourth round. Can't believe he was there. I love Clark Phillips to the Falcons with Okuda and AJ Terrell. I just love it. I love Clark Phillips. I love the fit, and I obviously love Bijan. I love that fit. It's going to be a fun fantasy player, and I love that. B.
Yeah, yeah. I like that grade for them. I don't feel like they had enough picks and enough splashiness to truly give them an A. But yeah, I think a B grade is fair. That's what I'll give him too on this. I love Bijan. He was definitely probably my favorite player from this draft class. I think you get an immediate, you know, however you want to say Bijan. I mean, he's been hyped to the moon so far. I mean, so we have so much expectations for him. Everyone kind of does. But I think he's going to deliver that. I mean, there's no one better out of college. I don't think we've ever seen a running back coming out of college with this much hype and this much raw potential. I mean, he is just unreal. And so a team that doesn't have, and they don't have a quarterback. I mean, what are they going to roll into this season with Desmond Ritter? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but I do feel a lot better in that situation with having a guy like Bijan Robinson just to give the rock to 25 times a game, and he's going to be a stud. Bergeron, kind of a guy who's a little slept on too. I think they actually drafted him. I didn't think he'd go that high. I thought he was being slept on a little bit through the whole process, but they end up taking him at probably a fair spot. Then yeah, Clark Phillips is third, man. Your dude. This guy's going to be an immediate day one starter, and you know what you're getting out of him. I mean, the reason why he fell, I don't know. I mean, at one point of the draft process, we were talking about Clark Phillips being a first round pick, which he probably deserved that. He's a little undersized, but I mean, you have players, at 5'9" in the NFL succeeding. So it's kind of like a thing. Oh yeah, he's small. We want to take the bigger corner first, but Clark Phillips is one of the most solid players in this. Honestly, in this draft, and I feel like he's one of the safest players. And to get him in the fourth round is an A+ grade right there. But overall, I'm going to give the class a B like you did. I think that's a fair grade.
Yep, overall a good class. And yeah, Bijan, the pick will be worth it. I think the value at 8 will be worth it in the long run. Just run it every single play. That perfect scheme fit. He's going to be a monster in that offense.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe they're thinking for a quarterback. I know we got two good quarterbacks coming in next year's draft class. Caleb Williams and blanking. Who's the dude from North Carolina? What's his name?
Drake May.
Yeah, Drake May. So I'd love to see either one of those two. The Falcons next year at Bijan. I think that'd be awesome, and that's probably where the range they'll be picking next year because I mean their quarterback play is not great, so they're not going to be able to go that far.
Yeah. All right, on to the Carolina Panthers. Absolute cornerstone franchise changing class. I love it. How can you not love it? You get Bryce Young, franchise changing player, franchise changing person, just a great person, great leader, locker room leader. I absolutely love it. I love pairing him up with Jonathan Mingo too. I think that that could be a really fun connection, Bryce Young and Mingo. He complements their receiving core really well with Thielen and Chark and Mingo now. I really like it a lot. DJ Johnson has some potential with Evero coaching him, and Chandler Zavala, one of my favorite picks in this draft. It's a great pick in that scheme. Just absolutely, he's going to be an absolute beast for the Panthers. I love that so much. And then Jamie Robinson was just an absolute steal in that system, and they have some good safeties over there. So I love developing him there. So I love this Panthers draft. A for me.
Yeah, when you get a guy like Bryce Young and you watch the way, I mean, he interviews and how like genuine of a guy he actually is. Um, that's the guy you want to build your franchise around. And I don't care what they, trading 2 first-round picks and DJ Moore, you got to go get your dude. And if you really believe this is your dude, and from what we've all seen on highlights and everything, Heisman winner, it looks like Bryce Young can be that dude, and a really good locker room guy that you'd like to build your team around. So if they would have traded 4 first-round picks, I don't care. That's kind of how valuable these quarterbacks are these days. So I absolutely love that from them. Jonathan Mingo, I thought that was a little early, but wide receivers were going fast, and why not throw a dart at a guy who, 6'2", 220. I mean, he's kind of like a running back playing receiver. I mean, he's built like an absolute tank. I don't know how these Ole Miss receivers, whoever their freaking coaches, in the weight room is just ridiculous. I mean, they keep producing these just fake wide receivers, and he didn't have great quarterback play at Ole Miss. He probably would have had a little bit better stats and a little bit better. Probably would have been a little bit higher. He probably would have been a first-round pick if he's in the right situation. But I do like the value there. I think he's going to be a fun player to watch with Bryce Young. And then, Jamie Robinson in the 7th. It was 7th, right?
Fifth.
Sorry, 5th was their last pick. But, I mean, that's an absolute steal. I mean, everyone was talking about him being the most well-rounded safety in the entire draft class. And so, I mean, how can you argue that in the 5th round? That's tremendous value. That's an A. But I'm going to give this class, I'd like to see them, make a little bit more of a splashy move and try and build around Bryce Love a little bit more, maybe be a little bit more bold. So I'm going to give him a B, but, I absolutely love the draft class. And I love Bryce Young.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And they just get an absolute steals in Chandler Zavala and Jamie Robinson in the 4th and 5th. That's crazy. But
yeah.
All right. On to the Chicago Bears, who had a great draft. Ryan Poles did his thing. I give them a B plus because I don't love taking Darnell Wright over like Skoronski and Broderick Jones, but I really love the Griffin Dexter fit. I think he's going to be really good for the Bears, like a future cornerstone interior D lineman for them. And Tyreek Stevenson, really, really underrated pick. He's going to be a starting outside corner for them with Jalen Johnson, and they're going to move Kyler Gordon into the slot where he plays best. So I love that for their secondary. Really fun pick. Zach Pickens will be good. He's going to play a lot for them. And Roshan Johnson's good to complement. Who do the Bears sign?
Will Herbert.
Yep. Cool. Oh, I guess they just have Herbert. They haven't signed anyone. Yeah.
Cool. Herbert's a stud, though. I love him.
Yep. And then Noah Sewell, they drafted him over some pretty good linebackers. It was an interesting pick. He'll be decent, I guess, as a backup special teamer. Tyler Scott's a fun fit, though, for the Bears with Justin Fields. I like that a lot. He's a fast, fun player. And then Terrell Smith was just an absolute steal late in the 5th. So really good draft. I'm going to give the Bears a B+. It kind of hurts that you lost DJ Moore. But, sorry, you added DJ Moore. So I guess you could kind of add DJ Moore to this class. So there you go.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You got to add him in the class. There's one thing I love Darnell Wright, and I love the whole protect fields kind of approach that they went right here. But it did make me mad that they traded down 1 spot and missed out on Jalen Carter. I mean, they had the chance, obviously, to take Jalen Carter. They didn't want him. But, that would have been such a key franchise stone for them to get a guy like that at pick number 9 after trading back. I would have loved to see Jalen Carter as a Bear. And I'm mad that he's on the Eagles because, God damn it, the Eagles. That defensive line on the Eagles is just not even funny. It's just annoying at this point. But I love Darnell Wright. I do like the whole protect fields. I get it. I thought there's better value there at 10, even though Darnell Wright was one of my favorite guys in this entire draft class. And then Gervon Dexter, I thought that was a little bit of a reach. I do see his potential to be really good. But I think it was a little bit of a reach there, but I like the true. I mean, he's going to be a true one technique. So I mean, plug and play him right in the center of your defense, and he definitely has the upside to be something really special and a key piece for this franchise. And then, like who you mentioned down there, one of my favorite picks of this whole draft was a Tyler Scott right there at the end of the fourth round. I mean, talk about a guy that's going to complement Justin Fields' skill set. This guy can get vertical. He can go burn people down the sideline. Justin Fields, that's they need that. They needed a wide receiver like Tyler Scott, who complements DJ Moore perfectly, I think. So I think they're a young, exciting, ascending team. And Roshan Johnson, I mean, that's a guy who, if he wasn't behind Bijan Robinson, this guy probably could have been a second or third round pick. So I mean, that's tremendous value in the fourth. The guy doesn't have much miles on him either. Bijan was the one who's taking the abuse there. But they would do fun. Texas to do some fun stuff. They put Roshan at running back and maybe Bijan to the slot. And I mean, this guy's a stud. He's a big guy, 6 foot, 220 pounds. He'll run you over. I think him and Khalil Herbert are going to be a fun pair in the NFL. But yeah, overall, you look at this class, I mean, and then picking up DJ Moore too, and then I think they have a first round pick next year. So, I mean, the value that they're able to get and pick up, you can't not give them an A. So, I mean, and yeah, Terrell Smith still right there in the fifth. So yeah, it deserves an A. I would have liked to see them go Jalen Carter first, but I mean, you can't hate protecting your franchise quarterback. So let's give it an A.
Yeah, Jalen Carter would have been really nice, but it seems like they really just wanted Wright to be their franchise right tackle. So I guess I respect it. We'll move on to the Dallas Cowboys. I really liked Mozzie Smith in the first round. I thought that was a great fit, one of the better fits. Something they needed for a while, just a solid run defender. But they did kind of reach on Luke Schoonmaker in the second and DeMarvion Overshown in the third, I'll say. I like the Fehoko pick in the fourth round. He's going to be a really solid run defender for them. Few dart throws. I like the Deuce Vaughn pick, one of the more fun late round picks in this draft for sure. I'm going to give the Cowboys a B-. Nothing too exciting, but a lot of probably contributors and role players in this class.
Yeah, I really think they hit on their first pick with Mozzie Smith, like you said. I mean, you were screaming this for like 3 months now. You got to find a clip of you saying, the perfect Cowboys Mozzie Smith like 3 months ago. So you called it. I don't know if you saw that video of Micah Parsons talking, sending the text to his coach. He's like, defensive tackle, Michigan, make it happen. He's like, I got you. And so I think Mozzie Smith complements their edge rushers, especially Micah Parsons and Lawrence, just perfectly. This guy never gets pushed back off the line. He holds his ground. He's going to be able to stuff the middle right there. So, I mean, Mozzie Smith's a great pick at 27. Yeah, Luke Schoonmaker, more of an inline blocking tight end for sure. Definitely didn't think he'd go that early. Kind of picture him more as a fourth, fifth round pick. So it's a little bit of a reach, but I mean, he does fit what the Cowboys do. I mean, and what they're going to do this year is run the heck out of the ball. That's what McCarthy said. I mean, he said Kellen Moore wanted to throw too much and light up the scoreboard, and he wants to help his defense out and just run the ball, which is total boomer mentality in 2023 in the NFL. I mean, this is a passing league. You want to keep up with Mahomes and everyone. You better throw the ball. But they want to run the ball, so Shoemaker does make sense there. Overshown, he's going to be a fun linebacker. He's kind of a hard-hitting guy that flies all over the place. And then the Deuce, how do you like Deuce Vaughn? Just out of curiosity, as a pair with Tony Pollard. I mean, they're both. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a fun pairing. I mean, he's Deuce Vaughn's tiny. I think he's a fun, rotational player.
Yeah, he's a fun player. He's a good player. He really is. If he was in the body of like any other running back, he'd be one of the top ones. But 5'5" is really tiny. But he is a really good running back. He really is. So I don't know. I think he'll be somewhat productive there for the Cowboys as just a complimentary role. So I like the pick a lot. I do. It's fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. How do you think his fantasy value? Just a sneak peek into the fantasy season. Where do you see his fantasy value? Is he even relevant to draft?
Not high. Not I don't think he's crazy relevant, honestly. I think they'll bring in someone. I could see them bringing in Zeke even. Um, I guess
Bringing Zeke back?
I think they could. Jerry Jones mentioned it. I think they could. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Overall, I'm going to give the Cowboys just kind of an off-topic thing right there. We're going to be talking a lot about fantasy. You guys stay tuned into the podcast. That's one of our favorite things to do. But yeah, I'm going to give this class a C. I like it, but I definitely didn't think they knocked it out of the park by any means. But a solid C from me.
All right. And then the Detroit Lions, interesting draft to say the least. It's hard to grade, man, because they got a lot of good players that are gonna be good for them. Like Jameer, or at least Jack Campbell's probably gonna be like a 10-year starter for the Lions. I could see Sam Laporta and Brian Branch being the same.
Pause. Switch Brian Branch with Jameer Gibbs. How do you feel about this class?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can say that, but still, they still navigated the draft terribly, and the value is just horrible with Gibbs at 12. Value is horrible, it really was. But I get it. They're going to be good players. Like I said earlier, I would have rather had Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift over Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. And I'd rather have the sixth pick too. That'd be nice. But it is what it is. They did it. We know that all these players are going to be productive for the Lions. Especially, I love the Sam Laporta pick. I mean, they did take him over Michael Mayer, which hurts a little bit as well. But he's a really good player, and he's going to be really good for them. Really good after the catch. I like getting two IO guys that are going to be really good contributors. And obviously, Brian Branch, one of the steals of the whole draft, if not the steal of the draft. Just great fit. Plug him in a slot corner. Going to be very productive for the Lions. Overall, the Lions come away with a lot of players that are going to be contributors. I just would have probably navigated the value a lot differently, but I'll give them a C minus.
Yeah, it's not like we're calling their players who they drafted bad by any means. It's just where they took them and the reaches. I mean, it was just like, I mean, when we saw Jameer Gibbs go, I mean, when they traded back, I mean, you're like, oh, okay, maybe they're gonna get, gosh, I mean, they were in the position for a lot of good players right there. But to take the second best running back in the draft class is like stay put at number 6 and take Bijan. I mean, we would all felt better about that. Okay, it's just the weirdest thing. I mean, obviously their team and their scouts and everyone fell in love with Jameer Gibbs, which I get, but like, I mean, it was crazy because he was gonna be there at 18, you know. I mean, the whole way they navigated this was just bizarre. And it was like something we've never seen before. I mean, they took the two. I mean, obviously this team doesn't care about positional value because they took a running back and then the running back of the defense linebacker with their first two picks, and they had premium position picks. I mean, I would have loved to see them go D tackle. I would have loved to see them stay put at 6 and take Jalen Carter and then take, anyone else. I mean, I like Jack Campbell, but not at pick 18. And I love Jameer Gibbs, but not at pick 12. And I could go on to this tangent forever. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, and then, yeah, Sam Laporta over Michael Mayer. I mean, Sam Laporta is probably going to be great. So I don't hate that. But yeah, Brian Branch, still the draft. One of my favorite people. Never should have been there in the second round. I mean, it's just ridiculous that he fell that far. And then I like Hendon Hooker in the third round because why not throw a dart at him? He had one of the better seasons this year at Tennessee. Obviously plagued by an injury and an older guy. I don't think he's got tremendous upside, but I feel like you kind of know what you're getting out of him. Possibly a starter and probably a career backup who, if your quarterback does get hurt, he can go in there and win you games. But yeah, the Lions class is weird. I don't really know how to grade it. I feel weird giving them a grade because they did get, I mean, their first 4 picks are all people that can come in and make an impact day one. It's just the value wasn't great where they bought them. But I'll give them a B. Like, I like the players. Just the value was weird for me. So I still think those top 4 players are, a great draft class. They're all going to contribute probably day one, so I'll give them a B for that. But just weird where they took them. Switch Brian Branch and Jameer Gibbs for me, and I would have probably had a higher grade for them.
And do you like the Hendon Hooker pick? Do you think he'll be their future quarterback in a few years? Or
I don't think he's the future. I think it's almost we're in a day and age where if you lose your starting quarterback, you're screwed. And so I do like I don't mind. They had a pretty filled of their roster was pretty filled, and it's not like that was kind of a luxury pick for them. Taking a solid like having a Jacoby Brissett or somebody like that who can come in and win you games. Is kind of a luxury to have on your roster. So I like the pick. I'd give that like a C. I wouldn't like knock it out of the park, but yeah, he's probably a C player to me. Just a career backup.
yeah, Jacoby Brissett's a good comp, and I think he is a good. I think he was drafted to be their backup of the future, which I like. I like.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a B though. It's just weird. It's a weird draft for the Lions, but it's not like they didn't get impactful players, and I like their players, so I'll give it a B. Just switch Brian Branch to Jameer Gibbs. I'm just gonna pretend Brian Branch went 12.
All right, and their division NFC North rivals, the Green Bay Packers. The more I look at this class, the more I really, really love it. I'll be honest, I love it. The Packers did a really great job. They got Lucas Van Ness, who, let's be real, is just a Packer player, and pairing him with Rashawn Gary in the future is going to be a very scary edge duo. And Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft is honestly really fun, and both really, really good players that were hard to pass on at the spot they were taken. And honestly, it's kind of smart surrounding Jordan Love with two solid, well-rounded tight ends, and one with a lot of potential receiving upside and athleticism. I love it. I love adding Jaden Reed. He complements Dobbs and Christian Watson really well. I love this Packers draft. They get Dontavian Wicks later, Anthony Johnson, who's probably going to play for them. I love this a lot. I'm going to give the Packers A minus.
Yeah, they had a million picks. I didn't realize that. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Question for you: did you happen to see that highlight of Lucas Van Ness absolutely murdering Peter Skronsky?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh man, dude,
So
that was
strong.
just the absolute bull rushed him, and he made him look like a little kid. He just threw him into the ground. If that doesn't show you the upside of Lucas Van Ness, then I don't know what will. But that was just ridiculous, that bull rush on him. So that was, Lucas Van Ness, he's going to be, I think I like the Packers system for him. I think he fits it well. I like that pick for them. It was kind of weird. His college career was kind of weird. The more I watch him, the more I like him. I had him as not my guy early in the process, but, you start watching a little bit more tape on him. It was just a weird, way that Iowa used him. And, but he's got tremendous upside. There's a reason he's picked at 13. Probably one of the strongest dudes in the draft. He embarrassed Peter Skronsky when they played. But I like that pick. One pick that really pissed me off, though, with the Packers was them taking two tight ends. It's like, save some for the rest of us, man. I really thought the Chargers had a chance to get Tucker Kraft in the third round. Like, oh, there's no way the Packers are going to take another tight end. They just drafted Luke Musgrave. But, I love that for Jordan Love, though. Why not get him two safety blankets, two guys? Tight ends are just like receivers these days. They're just big blocking receivers that can run routes. And so Luke Musgrave is your vertical guy, and Tucker Kraft is kind of your all-around guy. But, I absolutely love that. And Jaden Reed, one of my favorite players in this draft class. That's probably where he should have been taken. I thought he was going to go a little bit later, but I think he's going to be a day one impact starter for them. So I really like that pick too, especially building around, your new younger quarterback who's now finally getting a chance to start. And then Anthony Johnson, I'm going to point that out in the 7th round. Absolute steal. One of my favorite picks of the draft right there in the 7th. That is just ridiculous. Why did he fall there? I don't know. The dude's an absolute stud. What we were hearing is he's probably going to come in and take over Darnell Savage's spot immediately as a 7th round pick. So, you got to love that. Yeah. And then Wicks in the 5th. That's also, another dart throw. That guy, he could be good, might not be, but I think that's a fun development piece that, see how he does in training camp, earn a spot on the roster. But yeah, I mean, I love this class. I'll give it an A too.
Yeah, and Sean Clifford was their one reach. I don't know if their scouts were really aware of like Sean Clifford value, but it wasn't in the fifth round. I don't think anyone was going to take him anywhere near here. But
Probably could have signed him. Probably could have signed him after the draft. Maybe taking your seventh round pick on him.
very interesting, but whatever. Good backup, I guess. But on to the Los Angeles Rams, who had a very interesting draft. They had a lot of picks, and I love how they started it with Steve Avila, just a starting guard who's going to be a just locked starting guard for them for years to come. I love the Steve Avila pick. They get two really good defensive linemen for their scheme in there with in the room with Aaron Donald, with Byron Young and Kobe Turner. Two really athletic, good young D linemen with a lot of potential. Really good athletic young D linemen. But Stetson Bennett pick was a little interesting. Don't love it. Don't know how to feel about it. Obviously, I don't think he'll ever be a starter. So interesting to get him in there with the other Georgia quarterback, Matthew Stafford. But Nick Hampton was a really good pick, really good value. Got a lot of upside, really good athlete. I love Davis Allen, good backup tight end 2 type. And then Puka Nacua is an exciting pick.
That pick made me laugh. Puka Nacua in the fifth. What in the world?
Yeah, I know. I was a little surprised by that, a little earlier than I expected, but exciting player. He's a good player, just not very athletic. THT, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, your dude. He went to the Rams, and I love the fit. I love the fit. They love their short corners on the outside, and I think he could be really good in the slot or on the outside. I think he'll be good for the Rams, actually. And Mr. Irrelevant, Desjuan Johnson. I actually love this pick. I watched him against Ohio State, and he really actually popped live, like he genuinely did as a D lineman. So, really good player too. So I love this Rams class. I'm going to give the Rams a C plus.
Yeah, they had a million picks. It's so interesting, and it was like a very random draft. But yeah, Steve Avila with their first pick in the second round. I absolutely love that guy. You know, he's a dude you can plug and play all 3 spots on the interior. He can play center. He can kick out to either guard spot. He's pretty much scheme proof. I mean, he played a wide zone, whatever you want to run. You know, he's going to go in there and he's going to thrive. So I mean, he was one of the most position flexible players in his whole draft class, and so I absolutely love that. I'm going to give that pick an A by itself. The rest of the draft class is interesting. They had a million picks. I mean, kind of just all randomly throughout the draft. I mean, from the sixth, I mean, how many picks they had? 3 6 and 3 7s. So that was half of their draft class. But yeah, Nick Hampton, also one of my favorite podcast people I watched, The Guilty as Charged. Tyler from there was just screaming from the rooftops about how this dude had unlimited potential, one of the most slept on players in this draft. And so he kind of turned me on to him. So I think in the fifth round, that was tremendous value. Kind of a little biased from some of my favorite podcasters, but they turned me onto Nick Hampton. And in the fifth round, that's tremendous value. Dude's got a lot of upside. I think on the Rams with their defense, he's going to thrive. Stetson Bennett, Puka Nacua, those picks kind of made me laugh. Stetson, I mean, I like it. I like it for the Rams. I mean, Stetson Bennett can probably be a pretty good career backup too. I mean, he did have a fantastic career at Georgia. I mean, I don't know what quarterback couldn't. I mean, that's those players and everything. All he had to be is just a decent player. But you know, I don't hate it. You know, he gets to sit behind Matthew Stafford for a year or two and develop. Not a bad pick. And then yeah, THT in the sixth round. That's one of the steals of the draft, man. I mean, these undersized corners who are probably going to end up being starters getting drafted so late. It's crazy. I mean, the teams that took advantage of it, like the Rams taking them in the 6th round, that's an A+ grade for me. But overall, yeah, I'm going to give this class a C. It was kind of an interesting, a little bit random, but I mean, they do have a lot of upside, but you know, I think they only have a couple, maybe people that can come in and make an immediate impact. So I'm going to give it a C.
I like it. And on to the Minnesota Vikings, who took Jordan Addison in the first round. Like the Falcons, I will criticize them a little bit for not taking Will Levis. I think Will Levis would have been in a perfect situation here in Minnesota. I think it would have been worth it in the first, trading up to get him in the second. Either way, I would have Love that. I would have loved Deontay Banks here, but let's not talk bad about Jordan Addison at all because he's a great fit and he's going to be really productive for the Vikings. He's going to be, in my opinion, the most productive of any of these rookie receivers. So I really like the pick and I like the fit. I like Micaiah Blackman, a little bit of a reach. We'll see how he is. I don't know how impactful he'll be as a starter. I kind of think they could have taken a better starting caliber corner, but a few good defensive players at LSU, and I like Jaren Hall as their future backup as well. And Dwayne McBride was just an absolute steal, one of the steals of the draft. Yeah, overall, I'm a little worried about how much impact is going to be in this class outside of the first round. I'm going to give it a C plus.
Yeah, they're a team that needs depth, and they didn't have a lot of picks, which is interesting. Um, I mean, why didn't they have too many picks in this draft? What do they trade for? I can't even remember. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely a team that needs depth and has a lot of roles to fill on defense. You know, their defense was awful this year. Um, but I do love Jordan Addison, like you said. I mean, I would have liked to seen them try to trade up or do something to try and get Will Levis because that would have been such a perfect situation for him to sit behind Cousins for a year or two. And I think he would have thrived in Minnesota. I think that would have been such a good situation for him. But yeah, we can't hate on Jordan Addison at all. He's going to be a stud. He's going to complement Justin Jefferson perfectly. Kai Blackman, like you said, absolute reach there in the third round, especially with some of the corners on the board in the third round. I mean, they could have done a lot better, but I mean, he does have upside. Don't love the pick, but Dwayne McBride in the seventh. That's going to be kind of an interesting one. It's gonna be interesting to see if he'll earn a role on the team. He did have a fumbling issue, I know, but I mean he had he had the second most broken tackles behind Bijan Robinson in this draft class, and that's always kind of a telltale sign if they're going to be relevant in the NFL. So a lot of yards after contact for him, and then yeah, Jaren Hall, I like that. I like him in the fifth for the Vikings. I think he comes in. I think he's going to be kind of a career backup guy too, kind of a dude that can come in, run the read option pretty well. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of a fun player. He's interesting. I don't think he's got much upside, but I do like him as a backup. But yeah, overall for this class, I'm going to give him a D. Don't love it. And they're a team that really needs to fill depth and get some key defensive starters, and I don't feel like they got any of that. So I don't think they improved much outside of Jordan Addison. So I'm going to give him a D.
I'll give him a C plus. I would have really loved Will Levis here. I would have loved the fit, perfect fit, but it's whatever. And they don't have a second round pick because I believe they traded TJ Hawkinson for that, or for TJ Hawkinson.
Oh yes, yeah, that's who it was. Couldn't remember.
I forgot about the 6th round pick though. I don't know why they don't have that. But on to the New Orleans Saints. Good overall draft. I love the Brian Breesy fit and pick so much. I really love it. He's going to be a good player for the Saints. And Brian Breesy's a really good D lineman that has a lot of potential. And I think he can be a Chris Jones type of D lineman in that defense. So I love that pick. Isaiah Foskey's a good run defending D lineman, Saints D lineman for sure. Kendry Miller, they stole him from your Chargers. The Chargers could have got the TCU.
We needed everyone. We needed everyone from TCU. Could have had their whole starting offense.
They took Kendry Miller pretty early, but I like the pick. I like pairing Jake Haener with Fresno State quarterback Derek Carr. Got a little Fresno State connection, so I like that. I like A.T. Perry, trading Troutman for A.T. Perry. Not bad. So overall, good class. I'll give them a B. Not bad. Nothing too much to talk about though.
Yeah, no. I actually really like this class too. I thought they, with the picks they had, they really took advantage of it. Brian Bresee, absolutely love him. I think he's got, out of all the defense tackles on this draft class, I think he's almost up there with Jalen Carter for his potential. Some stuff kind of derailed his college career. But this guy was a #1 recruit coming out of high school. I mean, an absolute stud. So I really love that pick, and I love him in the Saints defense and with their defensive coordinator. I think he'll thrive there in New Orleans. And then Isaiah Foskey, I actually like that pick too. So Isaiah Foskey, I like the value there for the Saints there in the second round. I think he's a guy that has a chance to be a long-term starter, and especially in a defense like the Saints. I think he'll actually thrive there. And getting, I'm starting to really love that Saints defensive line, especially adding, Bresee in the first. So I like the pick. I think he's got upside. I like the fit. I think it's those two are a solid first star to your draft. And then yeah, Kendre Miller stealing them from my Chargers. How disrespectful. We're trying to take the entire TCU offense. Um, but I think he's a stud. You know, probably in a year or two, I think he'll be their RB1. I think he's got tremendous upside. And he just looks like a Saints running back, does he not? He
Yeah.
just looks, he has that look, he has that kind of that style of play that they love. So, I think it's a little high for him. There's probably a little bit better running backs on the board. Probably should have let the Chargers just take him, but whatever. But no, I like that. I like the first three picks. And then let's see, who are the rest? Oh, yeah, A.T. Perry in the sixth round. What a steal. That's a great pick. A guy at 6'4", 198. He's a vertical threat, 50-50 balls down the field. I like that for Derek Carr. He's pretty good deep ball thrower, giving his receivers 50-50 balls. So I like that. Jake Haener, like you said, what a flawless fit for him to sit behind Derek Carr, because he kind of reminds me of Derek Carr. That was kind of my comp for him. Size and everything, dude. I mean, he's kind of coming out of Fresno too. That's such a perfect system and place for him to sit behind and be a backup for a year or two. So I really like what the Saints did for their draft class. It's kind of an underrated, but I think it's a sneaky A for me. I think every pick that they did, I think they actually hit on everything. Maybe they had a couple of reaches, but it all made sense. So I really like the class. It's going to get an A from me.
Yeah.
Not like a really high A, but like a bottom tier A, if that makes sense. More A minus.
Yep. And Nick Salivera was a really good pick. He'll be a really good swing tackle for years. And yeah, Kendre Miller will be really good in case Kamara gets suspended. They can have Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller. Really good pick. A little high, but I like it. I like that draft a lot. Let's move on to the New York Giants, who, let's be real, A plus. I mean, they got Deonte Banks, who in my opinion was a steal the first round. Just a perfect fit. It was probably the best fit of the first round too. Just such a good pick, man. Deonte Banks of the Giants is so fun, and he's going to be their cornerback one for years to come, and just gives a big boost to this class. They get their center of the future, day one plug and play center that can just be an absolute rock at center for years to come. I mean, how can you hate that in the second round? People were mocking this in the first round. Absolutely love the fit. I love John Michael Schmitz as the Giants, man. Jalen Hyatt, Brian Dable getting his hands on Jalen Hyatt, complimenting Wan'Dale Robinson's really fun. I like it. I think he's a really good fit for the Giants. I think he'll be fun. Speedy receiver. Eric Gray actually compliments Saquon pretty well. I like that pick. Pretty fun running back selection. Overall, really good draft. I'm going to give the Giants an A plus, man.
Yeah, no, they really hit on everything they did. I mean, look at their first three picks. That could have all been first round players. I mean, at one point we were talking about all these guys going in the first round, and I wouldn't have been shocked if they would have. I wouldn't have been shocked if Jalen Hyatt, was a bottom end first round player. John Michael Schmitz, we thought for sure was going to go first round. I don't know how many times they mocked John Michael Schmitz to the Giants in the first round, and the fact they're able to get him in the second round is just tremendous value. Deonte Banks, probably one of both of our favorite corners. I mean, we talked about this, his relative athletic score was a perfect 10 out of 10 out of like 5,000 corners that have ever entered the draft. He had the highest. So that's pretty cool. Ultra athletic, day one starter, impact player. He really never should have been there. I kind of pictured a team like the Baltimore Ravens trading up into the first round to get him. I can't believe they actually honestly passed on him. And then, yeah, Jalen Hyatt, I feel like complements their wide receiver core really good. He's going to help Danny Dimes out a lot, as a true vertical threat for that offense. And like you said, Eric Gray, he's a great compliment. RB2 to Saquon, can't hate that pick. But I mean, you can't not just give this draft class an A plus with those first three picks. I mean, you don't even have to look at the rest of the draft class because they just knocked it out of the park with those first three picks. So yeah, A plus for the Giants. Super exciting draft for them. I think they're going to be a fun team. I hope they can compete with the Eagles this year.
Yep, A plus. Let's go to the other A plus in this division.
Oh,
Philadelphia Eagles with one of the drafts of a lifetime, man. They go and get Jalen Carter, possibly the best player in the draft. They get Jalen Carter at pick 9. They go and get his Georgia teammate Nolan Smith at 31, who people thought could go top 10. They go get Tyler Steen, who could be a really good developmental guard or tackle for this team. Sidney Brown, who could play now and be a really good safety, starting safety day one. Love that pick. Keely Ringo getting him in with his Georgia teammates. I love that. Tanner McKee, too good a value to pass up on at quarterback in the 6th round. And then Moro Ojomo, one of the steals of the draft late in the 7th round, is just absurd to me. So, of course, the Eagles do it again. Howie Roseman, you did it again. A+ draft. I can't believe all these picks shouldn't have even been possible. I can't believe it.
Yeah, at one point you have to just think Howie Roseman's just laughing to himself. And add DeAndre Swift into this draft class, another Georgia Bulldog, just going along with the whole the whole Bulldog theme. He's probably loving it. He's probably having so much fun. And the fact that Jalen Carter should have never been there at pick 9. That's absolutely ridiculous. This guy, could end up being the best draft. End up being the best pick from this whole draft class. The dude, you watch this tape at Georgia, and it's just not even funny. It's ridiculous. And then he's getting paired with Jordan Davis. So they have 3 Georgia Bulldogs, and that Georgia defensive line 2 years ago was one of the best defensive lines we've ever seen in college football, and they have 3 of those starters. So it's just ridiculous. Not even fair. Their whole defensive line, they set the sack record last year with like 78 or something. They'll probably break it by 10 sacks this year just with adding Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. It's ridiculous. Tyler Steen, kind of your classic Alabama lineman. He just looks like he go to Alabama because he's just an absolute stud. He's going to be a great swing player for them. So absolutely love that pick too. And then Sidney Brown, the guy, probably the most athletic safety in this whole draft class. Some of the best speed. Does have tackling issues. I think they'll get that cleaned up in the NFL though. And then going to that Eagles defense, I think he's going to thrive. He's going to be a ball hawk back there. And then why not? Why not trade up and get Keely Ringo when he fell to the 4th round when he probably should have been a 2nd round player? Why not just keep improving your team, Howie Roseman? You did it. And then trade for DeAndre Swift, get Tanner McKee, which is just a luxury pick. Tanner McKee will probably be a really good backup in the NFL. It's just kind of another guy, kind of reminds me of like the Kirk Cousins. I think he's got the potential to be probably better than Kirk Cousins, and these guys get him for a backup for the next 4 or 5 years while he's under his rookie deal. So love that. Moro Ojomo. They really didn't miss a pick. Literally did not miss on one pick in this draft. So one of the best, if not probably the best draft in the entire class. A++++++. Howie Roseman, I salute you. You probably are the best GM in the NFL. It's hard to not, have the Eagles as NFC championship favorites this year. Just they only get better.
Yeah, when you add DeAndre Swift to this class, that probably is the best class in the NFL. So respect, absolutely great franchise cornerstone class that they do it every year apparently. So it's crazy.
Premium positions too. Premium positions they draft always.
Yep, and onto the Seattle Seahawks. They go defense and they take Devon Witherspoon at 5, and they pair him with Jackson Smith and Jigba in the 1st, which I absolutely love. Pairing JSN with Lockett and DK Metcalf is absolutely awesome for Geno. I love their first 2 picks. Derek Hall, a little early for me, but he's a good fit. They did need edge and defensive line help, so I like that. Zach Charbonnet is an interesting fit, man. Obviously him and Kenneth Walker is a scary duo. Can't get too mad at that. Obviously, a little rich for me when you already have Kenneth Walker, but it is a really good duo. I'm kind of torn on how to grade that, but Anthony Bradford, good offensive guard, and Oluwatumi was absolutely great value in the 5th round. I can't believe that he could start for them day one at center and be a future starter for them. I can't believe they stole that. Kenny McIntosh was a steal, and then Mike Morris was a really good big Seahawk type defender. So it's a really good pick for them. But overall, good class. I'm going to give it a B because the mid. Actually, I'll give it a B plus, but the mid rounds were a little interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really liked this draft class. Devon Witherspoon was my, CB1. Um, he brings that kind of, I mean, he feels like a Seattle corner, just kind of that mean, gritty, guy that just wants to hit you in the mouth. Reminds me of Denzel Ward. I'll say it again. He's a great pick. I didn't really think he'd go to Seattle at the 5. I thought they'd go defensive tackle or edge first, but um, they got CB1 in this class, so I really like that pick. Zach Charbonnet was interesting for me there in the second. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's very similar sized to Kenneth Walker. I feel like they're both bell cow running backs. I don't know, maybe you play one of these guys at fullback and kind of so a dual running back thing would be kind of fun. You have to account for two big bodies running right at you. Absolutely love Jackson Smith and Jigba. With their second first round pick, they got their favorite wide receiver in this draft class, and he absolutely perfectly complements DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. He's going to be a guy I think has a real chance of getting 80 catches this year, even with all the targets that are going to have to go around in that offense. And then Mike Morris, one of my favorite guys. I was always mocking him in the third round. That's where I kind of thought he would go. He's a stud. I mean, he should have been there in the 5th round. I mean, a 6'5", 275 guy. I mean, he played really good at Michigan. That's a great value pick. I like, they keep adding to that defensive line. And then Kenny McIntosh, getting getting a second running back who's kind of a big guy. I'm not huge, but it's going to be interesting. They got a stacked running back room. They got a stacked wide receiver room. I feel like they built their offensive line the past couple of years really good. Derek Hall, adding him with Uchenna Nwosu and Mike Morris. They got the potential to go as far as they want. I think it all ends up how good Geno Smith plays, but however far Geno Smith takes them this year is how far they can go. I mean, they've got a really full team, and I think they have a chance to be really good, just depending on how Geno plays. But I'll give this class an A. They did have some interesting. Anthony Bradford's actually a pretty good pick in the 4th round. I think he'll be a good swing guard for them. But yeah, I'm going to give it an A. I really like the whole draft class. I like the value where they got people, and I don't really think they missed on any picks.
Yep, and they don't take quarterbacks, so they're all in on Geno.
That's the one part where I'm a little scared. I don't know if that last season was just a fluke. He did play really good last year, but I don't know. I'm not still fully bought in on Geno Smith.
All right. And an interesting draft for the San Francisco 49ers. I do love them starting off with Jair Brown, getting their replacement for Ward. I think he can be a starting safety. I think they like him as a complementary piece to Hufanga. So I think he will be their starting safety. And if that's what they want with Jake Moody going in the 3rd round, I think they just wanted some of their instant impact needs with their first few picks. Cameron Latu, a nice backup athletic tight end. A little early though, I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was like a 6th rounder. So the Niners were a little interesting on their value for their first few picks. Darrell Luter, I really like. I think he'll play a lot for them. Robert Bill's a good pick, good value pick. Ronnie Bell is a really good slot receiver. Overall, I'm going to give the Niners a C-. Really underwhelming drafts. Jair Brown is the one player that really gets me excited because I like him, and I like him in that defense starting, and he might be the only day one impact other than the kicker. So what are your thoughts on the Niners?
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly right there. Jair Brown, he's actually a really good player. He's kind of fun to watch. In the Rose Bowl against Utah, one play he goes and he rushes off the edge and he knocks Cam Rising out of the game. And then the next play he picks off the backup quarterback. So I mean, he's ultra productive in his career at Penn State. I think he had like 10 picks in the last 2 years. I think he's the interception leader from the class. But yeah, he's a day one starter. put him into that San Francisco defense, and he's going to be a stud. So I really like that. And I like the value of that in the third round. And then yeah, Jake Moody is kind of funny. I kid you not, I was watching a podcast with some dudes, and they're interviewing the San Francisco podcaster. I can't remember his name, but he goes, no, the 49ers, we'll probably take a kicker with one of our first two picks. And I was kind of laughing at that. I thought that was funny, but they did. It was a total
I
49.
know.
They
I
went and
wasn't
got
expecting it.
yeah, they went and got their favorite kicker. But I mean, if you really like a guy, I mean, kicker's an important position. Can't forget about that. Um, so they're trying to replace Robbie Gold, and I like that. I like those first two picks. If he ends up being a good kicker, I like the pick. But I didn't watch too much kickers in this draft class. But for third round picks, whatever. But yeah, Cameron Lockwood, definitely a reach. I like everyone in this, who they actually drafted, but I didn't think I thought they reached a lot of guys. I mean, I like D Winters, I like Jalen Graham. I watched a little bit of them. Um, and in the right system, I think they could thrive. I think they'll be day one special teams players, guys who can go out there and, fight for a special team spot, and potentially starters. But yeah, Ronnie Bell, it's great pairing in that offense. But overall, I mean, they didn't have much picks. They started in the third round. So with what they did, I'll give them a C plus for what picks they did.
And you know what? We might have overlooked this D Winners pickup. I really like it. They lost Al Shair, whatever, to the Titans, and they've lost a few linebackers. I think D Winners could be a Niners linebacker that they develop into a pretty good starter. He's got some good athleticism, so pretty good rangy player. So I like that actually. I love that
Yeah.
pick. I think that could
I
be.
even like Jalen Graham in the seventh
Yeah.
round. I mean, not many people know that name, but I think he's a guy that was he kind of played all over at Purdue, and he was a special teams guy. So I think he comes in, he had immediate special teams value. And with the 49ers, you kind of just have that gut feeling whoever they draft on defense is going to be a stud because they just kind of have that culture to them. So yeah, but yeah, the D Winter picks, I think that's a really good pick, yeah, especially in the sixth round.
Yeah, definitely some Niner players that they'd like to get their hands on for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they go and get Kalijah Cansey in the first round to add to that D line, an athletic piece to get next to Greg Gaines and Vita Vea. Cody Mock is an awesome pick. Get him anywhere on that offensive line, seriously, anywhere. They just need help, and I love that pick a lot. I'm happy they addressed the O line in the second. Yaya Diaby, a fun pick. Servasia Dennis is a really, really good linebacker, and I'd start him day one. I'd trade Devin White and just start Dennis because I love him. I think he's one of the top 5 linebackers in this class, and I think Servasia, but Dennis is a really good player, better than Overshown and players like that. So I like Servasia Dennis and think he could play now. He reminds me of Malcolm Rodriguez from last year, but Payne Durham, also a really good tight end too for their tight end Kate Otten. So, and Jose Ramirez was just an absolute steal, great value, fun, potential edge rusher, and Trey Palmer, good receiver getting into that room. So I like this Buccaneers draft. I'm going to give them a B plus.
Yeah, I really like them. I really like their draft. They're kind of in a rebuilding process right now. They got to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback. I know they kind of have Baker Mayfield as a kind of a little plug-in for a year, guy. But Kalijah Cansey, really like that. Like you said, Kalijah Cansey is a phenomenal pass rusher from the interior, and you don't find too many guys like that. So that's great value. Put him next to Vita Vea, and you got the best of both worlds right there. A guy who's an absolute monster that can just stuff the run, and then a guy like Kalijah Cansey who just has one of the best pass rushing moves in this whole entire defensive line class. Cody Mock, kind of a fun story guy, very flexible. He can play all over the line, plug him in a guard, put him out of tackle. Hell, he could probably even play center for you. So that's a good pick. You gotta invest in the offensive line as much as you can. Get a guy next to Tristan Wirfs, and then one of my favorite guys in this entire class, Payne Durham. He's just Hunter Henry to me. So getting Hunter Henry in the 5th round is just insane value right there. I think he can come in and be just as impactful as a Hunter Henry is on any team. That's just tremendous value. I mean, he's a guy that can run routes. He can block. I mean, he's not great at anything, but like we like to say on this show, he's just blanked. We're getting late. My
Jack of
mind's
all
exploding.
trades, master of none.
Yes, yes, what you just said. But yeah, no, jack of all trades, but a master of none. But I like him. I love that value right there. And then why not get a guy like Trey Palmer, who's a burner? He's kind of a one trick pony. A true deep threat. He's got to work on his whole route tree, but he can get vertical, and he can learn from Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So I really like that situation from. I'll give this class a solid B.
And on to the last team we're going to be grading, the Washington Commanders. They go two secondary pieces with their first two picks. They take Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez and Joey Porter Jr., and Deontay Banks, which still, I'll be honest, really hurts me a little bit, man. And I've been listening to a
I don't
lot of
understand it.
I've been listening to a lot of Washington fans justify this pick the last few days, and I still can't get past it. I really just can't, because the other players are really good scheme fits too. But I get it. Emmanuel Forbes, literal perfect scheme fit for Washington. He's gonna be a dog. He's gonna be just a good physical outside corner for them. He is a really good fit, and getting Jartavius Martin, who is the second best slot corner in this draft behind Brian Branch, I love getting him in there. He can play slot safety. I think he projects to play safety in the secondary for the Washington. So I like getting both those secondary pieces. And then they do the same thing with the interior of their offensive line, and they get Ricky Stromberg, who could be their starting center. I think he could be starting for them sooner rather than later. And Braden Daniels, who's a developmental offensive guard piece for them in the future. So some pretty good offensive interior pieces. And I really like Chris Rodriguez. I think he's going to be their backup running back pretty soon. So I think he's going to be a really good pick for them. I'll give the Washington a B plus. I'll give him a B because Emmanuel Forbes don't love the value, so I'll give him a B, but not bad.
Yeah, it's an interesting draft class for me. I mean, I literally like every single player that they drafted. But yeah, Emmanuel Forbes, I mean, I was scratching my head day one. Just what are you doing? I mean, you have Christian Gonzalez and Deontay Banks on the board. And if you're going to go corner, you went, the third or fourth best one available. So, I mean, yeah, I couldn't justify that pick either. Tavis Martin was actually one of my guys in one of our earlier videos. I really like him. I like it. I mean, I do like that they're investing in their secondary, the premium positions. But I think Tavis Martin still a little rich for me. I kind of thought he'd be more of a late second, third round guy. But I do like the fit a lot, and I like Emmanuel Forbes a lot. But I just think that was way too early, especially with the guys on the board. Ricky Stromberg, another one of my guys. I actually really like that value in the third round. I think he's a guy that can come in and be a day one starter at center. He was kind of calling all the plays and all the formations and everything in the SEC for Arkansas for I think he was a 4-year starter. So love that. Braden Daniels, really like him out of Utah too. Feel like that was a little bit of a reach as well. I feel like everyone that kind of reached on a little bit, but I like every single player. Yeah, Braden Daniels definitely has the potential to be a starting guard, swing guard for sure, probably right now. KJ Henry, not bad value with him in the 5th round, a guy with some upside. He's got good size, good length. And let's see, who are the last two picks?
KJ Henry was one of the more productive linemen on that Clemson defense who had some really good prospects. So
yeah. And then Chris Rodriguez, I do like him. He has a chance to come in there and start for, a role immediately. But yeah, overall, I don't hate the draft class. I thought every pick was probably a reach, all the way down to the 7th round. So I'm going to give this class. I'm going to give it a C. I like the players, but I don't like the value.
Yep.
With who's on the board.
Overall, fun class. They add to their secondary and offensive line, which you can't be too mad at. But yep, some really fun classes, especially in this NFC. It's really fun grading and going over every pick, and I'm excited to start going over some fantasy football here in the next few weeks and talking about some of the dynasty fits for some of these running backs, receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks. It's gonna be really fun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A lot of different content coming up in the next few weeks. We're gonna kind of sad getting out of the draft season. We started this podcast right at the beginning of April. We tried to jam in as much draft content as we can. Next year, obviously, it's gonna be probably draft content starting in December. But absolutely, absolutely had fun going over the whole draft. It's a great draft, great year. But now excited to get into you know different aspects of this podcast. Super excited for fantasy. We'll have some fun guests come on. We'll be doing a lot of mock drafts and different fun things. So, hopefully everyone stays tuned. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on everything. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this next stage, Dan.
Yep, going to be doing a lot of fantasy, going to be doing a lot of team overviews, deep dives, predictions. So yeah, a lot of NFL content coming soon. So check out the NFL Seekers podcast on all platforms. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another one.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.